In Amarillo, like many cities in Texas, the railroad played a large part in transporting people and products around the country. The decline of rail travel meant many changes, and this once magnificent railroad depot and hotel closed its doors for good. But that depot is still there along the tracks in Amarillo, and today we're going to find it.
Texas is full of lost history, from lost cemeteries to abandoned buildings, from the infamous to the obscure. Hitch a ride and travel across the Lone Star State, looking for hints of Texas' colorful past, our lost history. This is Expedition Texas, and we're gonna find it.
Amarillo, Texas has always been a favorite stop of families headed west. First-rate tourist stops beckon weary travelers to stop and visit. So it's always a treat when we get to tell a bit of Amarillo history here on Expedition Texas. This amazing city always opens its arms to welcome folks willing to share their story. We came into town early and stayed the night at the beautiful Barfield Hotel in Amarillo's Center City District. The Barfield was built in 1927, set just off Route 66. It recently underwent a full restoration to become a luxury boutique hotel, ensuring that we'll be rested up for our trip to explore the old Amarillo Railroad Depot.
Doing good. How are you doing today?
Good. Awesome. Nice building here. And who do you have with you?
We've got Beth Duke here with us from Center City. She's a major component of downtown Amarillo and the way it's growing.
So Beth, big plans for this building going forward, and you've kind of been through this thing with your construction background. Tell me kind of what you know about the bones of this building.
Well, we know that we have a structure that's going to be here for another 100 years for sure. The way that this building is built, we have no concerns with that. So for the most part, we're ready to adapt to whatever its future needs are.
Tell me about some of the things you discovered as you came in, being facilities, being your part of the job here with the city. You came into this building. What are some cool things you found as you...
Yeah, when you realize that this was part of the development of Amarillo from the geomarker from 1911, seeing how Amarillo was set up from the construction of this building, some of these walls being over 3 feet thick, from the environmental designs of this building, from the way that they took the concepts from back in the early 1900s to build a structure that really exceeds a lot of the construction of current markets today because of the way that it was built.
And even like a tunnel that led to another building and connected it.
Clear across the railroad tracks, across the rail yard.
There was a tunnel under the tracks.
That's correct. Yeah, steam lines actually run through there to help support the heating and cooling of this building and additional needs.
And you guys have big plans for it in the future, I hope, right?
Absolutely do. There's the community of Amarillo is in love with this building. They just don't know what they want to allow it to be yet. And we're always taking proposals and ideas. We want to make sure anybody that comes in is successful. We want to make sure that it's got a long-term life whenever they do come in.
And with that, it was time to tour the old depot end to end and top to bottom.
All right, what we're walking into now is the freight area. Basically, when you came to get on a train, you had your luggage, you would drop it off here.
Yeah.
Or if you were shipping something out, you would be in this area. Where you're standing right now is actually the scales. The original freight was just like UPS and FedEx today. You bring your package in, it weighs a certain amount, and then you ship it to off according to the weight and the size of the containers. So keep in mind, this is over 120 years old.
This is original.
This is original.
And I love these are just hollowed out blocks of wood. Amarillo, Texas, exploring the old Sante Fe Depot there. Our guide is Jerry Danforth, Facilities Director for the City of Amarillo. The city has purchased the old depot, and Jerry has gone through the building with a fine-tooth comb and knows every nook and cranny. We're touring the building end to end and top to bottom, and Jerry promises we're in for a few surprises.
Here at the main lobby, your next step is to actually come up to the ticket counter. This is still original to us, and you'll see the speakers that you'd hear, train number such and such is coming in. You'd hear the conductor coming over those. This is still one of the original components of our structure. This is actually Bakelite, no longer made anymore. This material is extremely durable. You can see that it's held up since the early 1900s, still here and still in great shape.
You can see where buckles would rub up against it when
absolutely right. You can tell smooth, no scratches over here, but you're exactly right. That was a buckle or a purse rubbing up against the Bakelite when you came into here. Then when you look at the surface, you can see the rub patterns where they were sliding their tickets back and forth or their cash back and forth.
And considering how long this was used and this held up that well.
Absolutely.
Pretty good material.
Absolutely is. And there's some really cool features in back. Let's go back there and take a look at those.
I'll follow you.
Okay, when we come in here, this is really exciting stuff to show you. Anybody that's worked at a fast food joint or worked as a retail salesperson, look at how easy this drawer opens. Keep in mind, this is over 120 years old.
This is original.
This is original. So when you look at this and you were making change, these scooped out, this is all wood, all oak construction. You're flipping your quarters, pennies, nickels, rolling out of here, your dollars and all of that. And keep in mind too, at the time, actual currency was a little bit different size than it is today. That's why you see these openings are a little bit larger than what you would see in today's market.
And I love these are just hollowed out blocks of wood.
Exactly.
With the rounded edges for the coins.
And if you could imagine the number of years that they were running coins through here, look at the shape that this thing is in. It's
nice
amazing.
And smooth now too.
And the fact that it opens and closes. Good luck finding furniture today that's as in good a shape as what this is.
Yeah, 100-year-old furniture here, doing its thing all this time.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic component. Over here would have been where the telegraph stand was, and we actually still have the telegraph. We still have the original conductor's caps, still original conductor's jackets. We have the original telegraph that's set here. So any updates come along the rail lines that came through here, there was your original email, sits right there. Okay?
Electronics.
Exactly.
Early stuff.
And when you think about the Sante Fe, Chicago was the hub of the rail system for the entire United States. Chicago was the hub. So when you look at the first mural, that's Chicago.
Okay.
Back in the 30s. If you'll notice the vehicles in there, those are from the 30s and 40s that you're seeing in there. You know, funny fact, if you look down through here, where the bricks are, that's actually where Chicago Field is now. So give you a little perspective of what you're looking at there. And then the major points along the Sante Fe line to the Grand Canyon, and then ended up in Napa Valley in California.
Just a visual there.
Absolutely. So when you look at it, you're starting in Chicago, coming through Amarillo to there. We're actually close to the midway point on that as well.
So when you came in and you got your ticket and you're waiting on the train to get here, there were other things to do while you waited, right?
Yes, there was a restaurant here that you could do that. There was, of course, a lot of information was passing through Amarillo with it being the hub. Basically, you could get updated here. So if you were here on a business trip, you got your telegraph or your email at the time. You knew what was happening before you got to your destination, or if Amarillo was your destination, you knew exactly what was happening.
So this really, we've only seen a tiny portion of it. We're just getting started. Your day at the depot could be a while, and there's a lot more to do.
Absolutely.
Show us some other things here.
Sure, love to. Here in the basement, this would have been where your secretarial pool was down here.
Why did you put them down here?
You know, different business plans for different folks.
in Amarillo, Texas, touring the old Sante Fe Depot there. Our guide is Facilities Director Jerry Danforth. We've seen the baggage check area and the ticket counter. Now we're off to explore more of the depot and check out some surprising features of this once opulent train station.
We had a full-scale restaurant here at the time that the depot was built, and it opened up as an independent restaurant later on too. But some of the cool features, this bent wood that we have here, this would be extremely expensive to replicate or reproduce right now. We've still got some of the original stuff. We don't have it all. We do have some old paneling that we have in here, but a lot of the original bent wood, pecan and oak is still here, which is the craftsmanship.
So you're saying the 70s paneling isn't original?
Nah, you know, the part of that we don't want to really brag about, but this is an amazing feature to our depot.
And what is this, Jerry?
Well, actually, that's one of the original doors here. If you look at the wood, you can tell it's original, but that would have been where the wait staff was, because this was the first class dining area. So they would have had silverware, tablecloths, all the accoutrements that you needed for first class would have been there. They would have had their own private waiter that dealt with them in this first class dining area.
Very upscale.
For the day, extremely upscale. All right, as we come into this room was a critical component for business and development in Amarillo. When you come into this room, you can see it's kind of a grand ballroom, and at the time, it definitely was a grand ballroom. This would have been where a big buyer from Chicago was coming to Amarillo and buy beef. You gotta go back into your memory and think of what Amarillo was back in the day. 80% of the beef in the United States was shipped through here at one time.
Wow.
So when you look at what the impact was of Amarillo on our nation, not only on Amarillo, it was huge. So you're liable to have a big buyer from Chicago that's coming down here. This is where they would have had a grand presentation or a ball or a get together to basically wine and dine the buyer, so to speak, to say, this is what we've got, this is what you need. Here we're coming into another unique feature that we have that most of the older depots don't have. This is actually the shower for your standard passenger. You know, if you're riding from Chicago to Amarillo, that's a long ways to ride on an unair conditioned vehicle that has the windows open, the dust blowing in, the heat. And so this would have been the spot that the men could come and shower and freshen up actually here. One of the unique things that we have, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize. See, back in the day, there weren't molly bolts, there weren't plastic anchors. So in ours, we've made sure that we've maintained them, but they would drill holes and then drive wood blocks in there and screw into the wood blocks to anchor and hang stuff off of the walls. So you could have had a towel rack that was hanging here. You could have had a shower mirror that was hanging here. All kinds of stuff that's not normally seen in a bunch of historical buildings that those are maintained.
Yeah, that's awesome though that those are still there. Oh wow, what's down these stairs, man?
Well, come on down here and I'll show you what we had in Amarillo that most other places don't have. Here in the basement is actually where we had the office staff. So this would have been where your secretarial pool was down here.
Why did you put them down here?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. Different businesses do things different ways. But this was still a good place for them. It was allowed them to keep their documentation here, how much they were using in fuel, how much they were using in coal. These areas right there behind you actually is where the natural light came in. That's currently blocked off to keep weather out of here, but there was a natural means of egress and light coming down through here. These are the other offices that were utilized downstairs. Right now we're looking at about 10 of these office areas. This is where the mechanical operations of the depot happened. This is where they would have been maintaining the boilers, making sure that they were filled with coal, making sure the fire was still running. All of that's still in place. I see you're curious about our tunnel.
Well, how far does that go back there?
This tunnel actually, when it was originally built, this tunnel connects to a building across the tracks almost a quarter of a mile away.
This went all the way over
This went all the way over. We actually had an employee that worked for us for a while. He was part of abating that and sealing that off. And he said it is quite spooky to be in there when the trains go across the top of you when you're in there working in that tunnel.
That goes under the tracks.
Yes, it does.
We've been touring the Sante Fe Depot in Amarillo, Texas. We visited several interesting areas of the old train station, but there was one significant portion of the building that we didn't even realize existed.
We also have something else that I think you guys will be excited about that the Amarillo Depot has that most other depots don't.
Okay, what's that?
Well, let me show you.
Okay.
All right?
This way. All right.
This way.
What are these stairs for?
Well, I'm going to show you when we get up top. I want to show you something else. Like I said, Amarillo has it, most other people don't. Hold on to the original handrails that were here.
I will.
We're headed up to a Harvey Hotel.
Harvey Hotel. In the depot, huh?
In the depot. A major component of what helped Amarillo grow.
So were there a lot of passengers that stayed over?
There was quite a few, but the Harvey Hotel would have been more of a high-end hotel. As we come to the top, you'll kind of realize, as we start talking about the stuff that they did, where we're at right now would have actually been a ticket gal. And if you go into this room right here, this would have been the coat check. So you came in, got a ticket, checked your coat in, or your luggage if you didn't want it to your room right away. Then after you left here, we'll go down the corridor and I'll show you the entrance to the Harvey area. As we come down the hall, I'm going to show you off to the left. This would have been the fine dining in Amarillo. Come on in. Let me show you what we've got. The Harvey Hotel back in its day with all of the services they provided would have been an original 4 or 5 diamond hotel. This would have been the dining room. So when you think about the ballroom downstairs, this would have played as big a role as that would have. When we come out of the dining room, I'm going to show you where the Harvey girls actually stayed. They had their own private dormitory.
What's a Harvey girl?
The Harvey girls were, basically they were tied to the rail system. So there was Harvey girls here. I know that there were Harvey girls in Sante Fe, Harvey girls in Deming, New Mexico. I think the only actual Harvey operation still in place is actually in Arizona at the Grand Canyon. We're coming into one of the dormitories for the Harvey girls. This room would have had between 3 to 4 Harvey girls in it, and they would have stayed in this area.
It's not a lot of room.
Not a whole lot of room, but back in the day, we didn't have as many sets of clothing as what we used to have. Harvey girls were in uniform. That's what they had to wear at work. And so consequently, that was the situation there. But you can see, once again, we have the radiators for the steam heat up in this area. All the accommodations were here. We still had the cooling like what you saw downstairs with the transom windows above the doors and the ability to open these to keep these areas cool in the summertime. Now we're coming back through the dining room and I'll show you what the hotel accommodations looked like back in the day. Here we're coming into the suite, and this would be a suite by today's standards as well. You have here a place for a king size bed, a view of downtown Amarillo, private closet, and actually a sitting room built onto your bedroom area.
Nice.
So this is actually a suite back in the early 1900s, is still a suite today.
Yeah.
And the views from here as you look out these windows, really you've got to use your imagination, but Amarillo didn't exist. There was no skyscrapers at the time, single story buildings. So from this point, you could see all the way across Amarillo. As we come down through here, all of these were hotel rooms down throughout here. We had one smaller room like the first room here, several rooms over on this side, and then we had one more grand suite right here. So you can see for the way that the hotel accommodations were, we were one of the top end hotels along the Sante Fe line when we were in operation.
Well, thanks for showing me around, man. That's awesome.
You bet, you bet.
And it looks like we got out here just in time to catch the train.
There you go.
The trains that come by the Sante Fe Depot look a lot different these days. Passengers, Harvey girls, and men haggling over beef prices are all a thing of the past. The city of Amarillo hopes to find a tenant for the old depot building who'll be willing to conduct their business with respect to the history of the depot. The bones of this building are strong, and maybe, just maybe, it's not quite lost to time. Down the road, there's another lost legend waiting to be discovered, and on Expedition Texas, we're going to find it.